Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The cemetery was silent, disturbed only by the light rustling of dead leaves as the autumn wind danced through the paths. Alexander Whitman, a renowned but deeply lonely millionaire, walked slowly forward, his hands clenched around a bouquet of white roses. Each step seemed weighed down by the weight of grief he had carried for 3 years, ever since his wife, Emily, was taken from his life in an accident for which he had never forgiven himself. He knelt before the grave, placing the flowers with an almost religious delicacy. His eyes were lost in the inscription engraved on the cold marble: Emily Whitman, eternal love. A dull ache rose in his chest. The memories of their past happiness, their laughter, their plans, all of it now seemed to belong to another world. As he stood up, his gaze was drawn to 2 figures kneeling on a nearby grave. Children, a boy and a girl, almost identical, with dark hair and eyes shining with tears. Their presence could have gone unnoticed, but something in their posture, in the way they seemed to absorb every word engraved on the stone, captivated Alexander. He approached slowly, his trembling voice betraying both curiosity and an emotion he hadn't felt for a long time. "Hello, you are here for your mother?" The children nodded shyly. My name is Luke, and this is my sister Lily. Our mother died recently." Alexander's heart sank. There was something deeply familiar in their features, an unexpected echo of Emily's gentleness and, of himself. A strange, almost supernatural connection seemed to be established in an instant. Without really understanding why, Alexander felt a mixture of fascination and fear. Who were these children? And why did their appearance here today, before the grave of the woman he still loved, seem written by destiny? That day, what should have been a lonely and painful visit to Emily's grave turned into the beginning of an unexpected mystery. A buried secret, a long-hidden truth, was waiting to emerge, and Alexander had a feeling his life would never be the same. Alexander Whitman couldn't get Luke and Lily's faces out of his mind. Ever since their brief conversation at the cemetery, he felt a mixture of concern and fascination urging him to learn more about the twins. He returned home to his sprawling mansion, its walls covered in Emily's mementos, but nothing in the luxury or solitude soothed his mind. The next morning, unable to remain without answers, Alexander went to the park where he had seen the children heading after their visit. He saw them sitting on a bench, their eyes blank, still holding their little stuffed animals. He approached slowly, trying to appear reassuring. "Hello, it's me again. I just wanted to know if you wanted to talk for a bit." Luke and Lily looked up, hesitant. After a long silence, Lily whispered, "Why are you interested in us?" Alexander took a deep breath. He felt his heart beat faster, as if every word had to be chosen carefully. "Because, you remind me of someone I lost. And I think maybe I can help you." The children looked at each other, wary but intrigued. Luke finally nodded, and a fragile bond began to form. Alexander spent hours talking to them, listening to their fragmented stories about their mother, their lonely life, and the strange circumstances of her death. Little by little, disturbing details emerged. Luke and Lily knew things about Emily that no one else could. Alexander felt a cold chill run down his spine. These children, they seemed connected to Emily in ways he couldn't understand. As he walked the twins to the park exit, a strange feeling washed over him. He had to uncover the truth, no matter what. And deep down, he had a feeling that this truth wouldn't just be a coincidence, but would reveal a secret that could change his life forever. Since meeting Luke and Lily, Alexander Whitman could think of nothing else. Every memory of Emily seemed to resurface through them, and a strange feeling told him that these children held a secret he must uncover. He began by searching for information about their family. The little he had learned from the children was vague. They spoke of a gentle and loving mother, but their accounts avoided any details about their father or where exactly they lived. Alexander decided to visit the twins' school. There, the headmaster received him with distant but polite courtesy. "Hello, Mr. Whitman. Would you like to register the children?" he asked. "No. I'm just trying to find out more about their past." They seem peculiar to me, Alexander replied, weighing each word. The headmaster hesitated, but finally gave in to Alexander's insistence. A few school records revealed a surprising anomaly. Luke and Lily had been adopted shortly after birth, and both had different last names. The files were incomplete, some documents were missing or had been erased. The more Alexander dug, the deeper the mystery thickened. Old photographs of their mother as a teenager struck him as reminiscent of Emily. Same smile, same sparkling eyes, same delicate features. Was it just a coincidence? This discovery shocked Alexander. He began to connect the dots, the twins' appearance at the cemetery, their striking resemblance to Emily, and now these mysterious traces of their past. A haunting question forced itself into his mind: what if these children were connected to Emily in ways I never imagined? That evening, alone in his office, Alexander pored over the photos and documents, each detail triggering a memory of his life with Emily. He realized that what he thought he knew about his past and his wife was only part of the truth. A secret lay dormant, buried somewhere, waiting to be revealed. And Alexander knew, deep down, that discovering this secret would change everything. His life, his heart, and even the meaning of his grief. The twins weren't just lost children, they were the key to a truth he wasn't sure he wanted to hear, but had to face. Alexander Whitman felt a growing tension every time he thought about Luke and Lily. He needed concrete answers, not just assumptions or hunches. That morning, he decided to follow them discreetly, determined to understand where they came from and why their presence at the cemetery had troubled him so much. The twins headed toward an older part of town, a place even Alexander, despite his wealth, knew little about. They stopped in front of a small red brick house, worn by time but carefully maintained. Alexander watched from a distance, hidden behind a tree. The children knocked on the door, and a woman in her 40s opened it. Her familiar face startled Alexander. She looked just like Emily. "Mom," the twins exclaimed, running towards her. Alexander felt a cold shock run through his body. Was it possible that Emily had a twin sister or a relative who looked so much like her? Or worse, could there be a truth about his wife's family he'd never suspected? He observed the scene. The woman was smiling, stroking the children's hair, but her gestures carried a mixture of tenderness and seriousness, as if she were hiding something. Alexander noted every detail. A photograph on the wall showed the same young woman, surrounded by two children who looked exactly like Luke and Lily. But on the back of the photograph, a barely legible inscription bore the name Emily Whitman. Alexander's heart was pounding. What he was seeing defied all logic. He had to discover the truth, and quickly, before this mystery consumed him completely. As he quietly left the room, he felt the weight of the secret grow heavier. He knew the answers he sought were close at hand, but they could upend everything he thought he knew about Emily, the twins, and himself. After days of doubt and observation, Alexander Whitman made a decision he knew was risky. He had to speak to this woman. He could no longer simply follow the children or gather clues. The truth had to be revealed to him, even if it undermined everything he thought he knew. He walked home in the late afternoon, when a golden sun bathed the streets in a soft light. The door opened to reveal the same woman who reminded him of Emily, but her eyes betrayed fatigue and caution. "Hello," Alexander said in a calm but firm voice. "My name is Alexander Whitman. I think we have a lot to discuss." The woman stared at him in surprise, but didn't close the door. He stepped inside cautiously, noticing the photos of the children and the young woman on the walls. His heart pounding, he tried not to betray his emotion. I met Luke and Lily at the cemetery," he explained. "They look like me, and they look like Emily. I need to understand." The woman hesitated for a long moment, then sat down, inviting Alexander to do the same. Her voice was shaky but determined. "You're right, they are related to Emily. But there's something you need to know first." She then began to tell an incredible story. Emily had had twins before her death, but due to tragic circumstances, she had had to entrust them to a trusted family for protection. The woman before him was not Emily, but her twin sister, charged with watching over the children from a distance. The twins had grown up without knowing the truth about their biological mother, but fate had led them to Emily's grave, and Alexander's. Alexander felt a mixture of shock and relief. The weight of his grief seemed to transform into a strange possibility of reconnecting with a part of Emily through the children. But at the same time, the complexity of the situation terrified him: how to integrate these children into his life. And above all, how to manage the secret of their connection to Emily. As the sun sank below the horizon, he realized one thing: his life would never be the same again. The answers he had sought had just revealed themselves, but they were only the beginning of a difficult path toward truth and reconciliation. The next few days were a mixture of tension and sweetness for Alexander. He spent time with Luke and Lily, getting to know their little habits, their fears, and their bursts of laughter that reminded him so much of Emily. Each smile from the twins rekindled a part of his heart he thought was lost forever. Yet, despite the fragile joy that was taking hold, questions remained unanswered. Why had Emily had to separate from her children? Why had their existence been kept secret? And most importantly, who was really behind this tragic decision? One afternoon, while he was playing chess with Luke in the living room, Lily came in holding a small, worn notebook. "Dad, well, I mean, Alexander," she whispered hesitantly, but with a burst of confidence that made the man's heart race. "I found this in the attic." Alexander carefully picked up the notebook. The pages were covered with Emily's precise handwriting, memories, and drawings addressed to her children. Each word revealed her infinite love for them and her despair at having to leave for their safety. "Emily," Alexander whispered, his eyes brimming with tears. The notebook also revealed clues about the forces that had forced the separation: anonymous threats, financial pressure, and family secrets Emily could not share with anyone. Each page deepened the mystery, but also gave meaning to the pain of all those years. This discovery brought Alexander even closer to the twins. He understood that he was not only their protector now, but also the living link to their mother. The children, too, were beginning to accept that Alexander was not a stranger, but someone who shared Emily's love and grief. For the first time in a long time, Alexander felt hope reborn. But deep down, he knew the road to the full truth was still long and fraught with danger. Emily's secrets weren't fully revealed yet, and some could change their lives irreversibly. Alexander Whitman knew that Emily's notebook didn't contain the whole truth. Her notes were precious, but they only revealed fragments of the story. To protect the twins and honor Emily's memory, he needed to understand who had forced this separation and why. One evening, he contacted an old friend of Emily's, Thomas Reed, a quiet but loyal lawyer who had helped Emily manage her personal affairs before her death. Thomas welcomed him into his office, a place where the shadow of the past seemed to hover over every shelf of old books and stacked files. "Alexander, I thought you'd come," Thomas said, placing a cup of coffee in front of him. "Emily never told you about any of this. It's dangerous and complicated." Alexander nodded, determined. "I need to know. For the children, and for her." Thomas pulled out a thick, dusty folder and placed it on the table. It contained legal documents, letters, and evidence of family intrigue. Alexander learned then that Emily's family had always exerted intense pressure on her. Her twins posed a threat to their secrets, a shady financial and inheritance affair that could have come to light if their existence had been revealed. Emily wanted to protect her children at all costs, Thomas explained. She chose to entrust them to trusted relatives, thinking that one day you might find them again. Alexander's heart sank. Sadness and anger mingled together, anger at those who had ruined Emily and her children's lives, and sadness at discovering how much she had suffered in silence. This chapter of Revelations marked a turning point. Alexander understood that the road to reuniting his family would not be easy. The enemies of the past were not yet gone, and he would need courage, intelligence, and prudence to protect Luke and Lily while confronting those who had destroyed his and Emily's lives. As he left Thomas's office, the cold night wind whipped across his face. He felt a new determination fill him. He was going to discover the complete truth, and nothing and no one would stop him. Alexander Whitman knew he could wait no longer. The twins deserved the truth, and those who had manipulated Emily's fate must be confronted. With the help of Thomas Reed, he began gathering evidence and documents, incriminating letters, financial records, and testimonies from relatives who had observed Emily's family's machinations. That evening, he invited Luke and Lily to sit with him in the living room. The children listened attentively, fascinated and worried at the same time, as Alexander explained that they would soon discover their full story and that nothing should frighten them. He wanted them to know they were safe by his side. The next day, Alexander went to see Emily's aunt, the matriarch of the family, the one who had orchestrated the twins' separation. The confrontation was tense from the start. The aunt looked at him with a mixture of contempt and surprise. "Alexander, you dare to come back after all these years?" she whispered. "I'm not here for excuses," Alexander replied calmly but firmly. "I'm here for the truth, for Luke and Lily, and for Emily." The revelations he brought were explosive. The evidence he possessed clearly revealed the family's machinations, threats, legal manipulation, and attempts to erase all trace of the twins. The aunt clumsily defended herself, but Alexander's cold face and the clarity of the evidence left her with no way out. This confrontation allowed Alexander to regain control of the story. He made the family promise never to interfere in the twins' lives again. For the first time in a long time, a sense of justice began to take hold. Back home, Alexander felt a weight lifted from his shoulders. The twins were now safe, and the path to a normal life, though fraught with challenges, was finally open. But he knew that more revelations about Emily and past enemies could still emerge, and that he would have to remain vigilant to protect his new family. After confronting Emily's family, Alexander Whitman felt a respite from the turmoil of his life. For the first time in years, he was able to spend quiet days with Luke and Lily. They laughed, played, and shared simple moments that reminded Alexander of the happy times he had spent with Emily. But he knew the truth wasn't complete yet. One afternoon, while tidying the attic, Alexander found an inconspicuous box hidden behind some old cardboard boxes. The box bore Emily's handwriting. Trembling with emotion, he opened it and discovered a diary and several sealed letters. The diary revealed one last secret Emily had kept to protect her children and Alexander. In it, she recounted how, before her death, she had uncovered a conspiracy to destroy her husband and children. She had taken steps to protect Luke and Lily, entrusting them to trusted relatives and writing detailed instructions for Alexander in case she was no longer there to watch over them. A more recent letter, addressed directly to Alexander, detailed what he needed to do to reunite his family and secure the twins' future. Emily expressed her love for him and his children, but also her fear that the past would catch up with them. Each word was laden with tenderness, but also with a palpable urgency. Reading these pages, Alexander felt both immense pain and deep comfort. Emily had planned everything for them, and now it was up to him to follow her instructions. He knew he must honor her memory by protecting his children and building a new life with them. This discovery strengthened his resolve. The twins were no longer just lost children to be found, they were the continuation of Emily's love, and Alexander was willing to do anything to ensure their happiness was never threatened again. After discovering Emily's diary and letters, Alexander Whitman knew he had to act quickly. Every instruction she left behind was clear: protect the twins, secure their future, and confront the last vestiges of the conspiracy that had shattered his family. The first step was to strengthen security around Luke and Lily. Alexander installed a discreet surveillance system in his home and hired trusted people to ensure their well-being. But physical security was only part of the mission. He also had to restore the truth, so that no one could ever question the legitimacy of the children's place in his life. He then began investigating Emily's former allies who had participated, even indirectly, in the twins' separation. Using the information in the journal, he was able to identify several accomplices and confront them one by one. Some were cooperative, revealing new information about the motives and actions of Emily's family. Others resisted, but Alexander was ready. He had gathered enough evidence to neutralize any opposition. As the days passed, Luke and Lily began to understand that they were now part of a real family. Alexander spent time explaining to them Emily's life, her sacrifices, and her boundless love. The children, despite their young age, seemed to absorb every detail, and their bond with Alexander grew deeper and more sincere. Finally, Alexander sent a final warning to those who had tried to destroy Emily's family: the truth would now triumph, and no one would be able to threaten the children again. It was a cathartic moment for him, a mixture of relief and sadness. Emily was no longer there, but thanks to him, her children were finally safe, and her legacy of love could live on. As he watched Luke and Lily play in the garden, Alexander realized that the final stage was approaching. One last secret remained to be discovered, the one that would finally close the story and reveal the definitive link between Emily, the twins, and himself. Alexander Whitman knew Emily's last secret had yet to be revealed. He had followed every clue, faced every obstacle, but a deep feeling told him that the greatest upheaval was imminent. One evening, he invited Luke and Lily to sit with him in the living room, Emily's diary open on his lap. The children listened attentively, their eyes shining with curiosity mixed with fear. Alexander began to tell them, gently and frankly, Emily's whole story, how she had been forced to entrust them to relatives, the dangers she had faced, and above all, how much she loved them. Then he showed them one last letter, sealed, which no one had yet read. Alexander slowly tore it open, and Emily's words echoed like a painful but hopeful melody. "My dear children, if you are reading this letter, it is because I am no longer here to protect you. But know one thing, Alexander, the one who found you, is the man who will always love you as I would have. Your life is in good hands. Be brave and stay united. One day, you will understand everything, and then you will know that love is stronger than all secrets and all trials." In that moment, Luke and Lily fully understood that Alexander wasn't just their protector, he was now their family. Tears flowed, but they were tears of immense relief. Alexander felt a warmth he hadn't felt since Emily's death, the promise of a future they would build together. A few days later, Alexander took the necessary steps to formalize the twins' adoption. The children, beaming, could finally bear his name and feel completely at home. The pain of the past hadn't disappeared, but it had reached its conclusion. Emily's enemies were neutralized, secrets revealed, and love had triumphed. Watching Luke and Lily play in the garden, Alexander knew Emily would be proud. His memory now lived on through them, and a new life full of love, laughter, and hope had begun. The lonely millionaire was no longer alone, he had found his family and the meaning of life he thought lost forever.